Here is our section 2.3 video. So in section 2.3 we're going to cover measures of central tendency. Our objectives are going to figure out the mean, median, and mode of a population and of a sample, and to describe the shape of a distribution as symmetric, uniform, skewed, and compare the mean and the median for each. So measures of central tendency, the most common ones are mean, median, and mode. I'm going to go over how you can find them by hand, just because of the importance of the symbols and if anyone wants to find them by hand, but I'm also going to cover how we are going to find them in Excel. So the mean is the average, or the sum of all the data entries divided by the number of entries. So if we look down at the notation for the population mean, we'll see the population mean is represented by the symbol mu, which looks like that little U with a little tail on the left, and that equals the sum of all the data entries divided by the number of data entries. So this E notation right here means sum, which means add all of the data entries, and this we represent, big N represents the number in our population. For our sample mean, the mean would be represented by X bar. So you can see the X and the little bar above it, we simply call that X bar, and that equals, again, the sum of all X's, or adding all of our data points divided by, in this case, a little n, to represent the number of entries in our sample mean. So if we wanted to use this example right here of the prices in dollars for a sample of round-trip flights from Chicago, Illinois to Cancun, Mexico, we can find the mean of this data set. What we would simply need to do is to add up all the numbers, as shown right here, 872 plus 432 plus 9 plus 397, and so on and so forth, until we get 3,695. And then we divide by how many we have in our sample set. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to divide by 7, and we would see that the mean price for this sample, which means X bar, equals 527.9. The next one we're going to cover is median, the value that lies in the middle of the data when the data set is ordered. So first thing we got to do is we got to order our data set. So we're going to use the exact same example as we did before, right here, and we're going to put our data set in order. Then we pick the one in the middle. So in this case, the middle entry is 427 because there is an odd number of entries. Sometimes when we have an even set, we're going to have to find this middle value by adding two values together and dividing by 2, by finding the average of those two. So in this instance, the median of our data set is $427 for a price. Now if I take one of the data sets out, which leaves us 6, the median is not just simply going to be our middle point. We would have to look at the middle 2 points, add those together, and divide by 2 to find the median of this data set. Therefore, the median price of flights is 412. I will also show you how to do this in Excel. The last measure of central tendency that we are going to cover right now is mode, which is the data entry that occurs with the greatest frequency. So if no entry is repeated, then it has no mode. If 2 entries occur with the same greatest frequency, each entry is a mode. Therefore, the set is called bimodal. So with the same example that we had before, we can see that there are 872, 432, and so on and so forth. It's really a lot easier to see when you order them, because then you can see when 2 numbers appear in order, like right here. 397 and 397. We could have figured it out with the first data set, but ordering puts those numbers right beside each other, much easier to find. So the entry of 397 occurs twice. Everything else occurs once, therefore is the mode of our data set. So the mode is $397. Here's another example of political parties and frequencies. So this is about a political debate, and there's a sample of audience members. Which one of the frequencies occur the most? That would be the Republican. Therefore, the mode of this data set would be Republican, because there's 56 times that a Republican was sitting in there. There was only 34 Democrats, 21 other, and 9 did not respond. So 56 is our largest number. The one that appears most often is Republicans. All 3 measures describe a typical entry of a data set. Now, they each have their different advantages and disadvantages. The mean is a very reliable measure because it takes every entry into account, but it is very affected by outliers from the data. And the data entry that is far removed from the other entries of the data set is what we call an outlier. So we're going to find the mean, median, and mode of the sample ages of a class shown here. As you notice, they're already ordered for us. So there's 20s, 21s, 22s, 23, 224s, and a person that is 65 years old. So if we were to find the mean, we need to add them all up and divide by 20. That gives us 23.8 years. Now when you look at this data set, does that look like the mean of the data set? It doesn't in my case because I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 20s, 1, 2, 3, 4 21s. So that's 6, 4, 10, 11, 12, 13, 22. So 13 of our data sets are lower than this. Actually, 14, 15, 16, 17 are lower than that. Only 3 are above. So that doesn't really sound like the middle or a central tendency in my case. So that 65 right there is really highly affecting that mean. Well, let's look at the median, 21.5 years. That seems to be right about in the middle of our data set, so that seems to be much more representative of this data set. And the mode is 20 years, the entry occurring with the greatest frequency. So when we have an outlier like 65, the median is a better representative of that data. Sometimes a graphical comparison can help you decide this as well. As you can see, all of our data follows right over here between 20 and 24, and then all the way out here there's this huge gap till we get to 65. In this case, the median is going to be the best descriptive for that data set. Symmetric distribution is a vertical line can be drawn through the middle of a graph of a distribution and the resulting halves are approximately mirror images. In this case, the mean, median, and mode are all the same and they're right in the very center of this symmetric distribution. Another distribution is called a uniform distribution, where all entries of a class in the distribution have equal or approximately equal frequencies. Notice the mean and the median is still in the middle, but there is no mode because there's the exact same number for each distribution. If something is skewed to the left, that means the tail is pulled and pulled over here to the left. Most of our data is to the right, yes, but when we're talking skewed to the left, that means we have an outlier or some data points out here all the way to the left that are smaller than most of this data. So it's like it's being pulled to the left. So the tail indicates where the skewness is, and in this case, it is skewed to the left. And as you can see here, when it's skewed to the right, the tail is pulled and elongated more to the right. That means the mean is to the right of the median and that it is skewed to the right. And that is all for 2.3. Now I'm going to show you in Excel what we would do to find these data sets. I'm going to cover the function wizard right now because we've covered the descriptive statistics in class. So if I want to find mean using Excel, what I need to do is I need to go to my f of x button. Now mine's going to look a little different than yours because I'm on a Mac, but the functions still run the exact same. So I'm going to click f of x, and for mean, I'm going to click average. Excel doesn't have mean, but it has average, which means the same thing. So I'm going to put in some numbers right here so I can find the average of something. So I'm just going to put in some fun numbers. There we go. So I'm going to find the average of those numbers. So I click on average, and then I have to highlight my data. And there we go. I get my average to be 464. That's finding the mean. If I want to find the median, I'm going to go back to my function wizard and click on the one that says median, or I can search for it. So I'm going to click on the one, median, and then again, all that I need to input is my data, and it calculates the median for me. I can also find the mode that we just discussed. I can go over here to my function wizard, type in mode, it will find the correct function. I'm going to hit enter to pull it over here. And then in here, I need to put in my data set. And then I hit enter. Now notice, for mode, it came up as NA. I wonder why. Well, if I look over here at my data set, I'm going to order it so I can see what's going on. So I'm going to put it from least to greatest. And as I put it from least to greatest, what do you notice? I notice that there are no numbers that repeat. Therefore, there is no mode. Thank you for watching.